Breaking news, Trump-appointed Judge Aileen Cannon just dismissed the classified documents case in Florida, and Donald Trump has already released a wild statement. First, Republicans said that we can't fully impeach him. Then they said we can't fully indict him. Now they're saying we can't even criticize him after this shooting, but we will not let up. To lay the groundwork, this article reads, Trump's classified documents case dismissed by Judge Aileen Cannon. The federal judge overseeing the classified documents charges against former President Donald Trump has dismissed the indictment on the grounds that special counsel Jack Smith was improperly appointed, according to a court filing Monday. U.S. District Judge Aileen M. Cannon's ruling is a remarkable win for Trump, whose lawyers have attempted long-shot argument after long-shot argument to dismiss the case. Other courts have rejected similar arguments to the one that he made in Florida about the legality of Smith's appointment, but Trump-appointed Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed the case. She accepted the argument, and just the long shot arguments that Trump's lawyers were using show that they know he was guilty. They could not actually argue the case itself. They could not argue that he was innocent, or at least innocent beyond a reasonable doubt. So they went for these long shot arguments in front of the Supreme Court, and Trump got a win from the Supreme Court too. The Justice Department is highly likely to appeal the decision, a legal fight that could end up at the Supreme Court. I wonder how that will turn out. Even if Cannon's ruling is eventually overruled, the decision to dismiss Trump's indictment adds to a string of legal victories for him in recent weeks, including a sweeping Supreme Court ruling on July 1st that gives former presidents broad immunity for their official acts while in office. Donald Trump may be the luckiest wannabe dictator that I have ever seen. I mean, for a bullet to just graze his ear. Even if we go back to 2016, he won that election by the slimmest margin possible, and that's because everything had to line up perfectly with the Comey letter, with everything had to line up perfectly. Trump's legal team has long considered the classified documents case to be the strongest of the 4 criminal cases against him, in part because the acts in question mostly occurred after he left the White House, and the one they were most worried about. And keep in mind, don't let conservatives draw this false equivalency between what Donald Trump did with classified documents and what President Biden did with classified documents. President Biden gave the documents immediately after he was asked, whereas Donald Trump played cat and mouse with the FBI for over a year, and that is the fundamental difference. Donald Trump knowingly took these documents. The FBI asked him. He knowingly told his attorneys to help him cover stuff up, and the FBI was forced to raid Mar-a-Lago, whereas President Biden, based off the Hur report, what special counsel Robert Hur said, he didn't know he took these documents, and when he did, he turned them in immediately. The former president was charged with 40 counts of illegally retaining classified defense information and obstructing government efforts to retrieve the material. Some of the documents found in an FBI search of Mar-a-Lago, his Florida home and private club, contained information about top secret U.S. operations so closely guarded that many senior national security officials are kept in the dark about them, the Washington Post reported last year. Donald Trump knew he had these documents, and again, he played cat and mouse with the FBI, putting our national security at risk, and people think he's somehow qualified to be the president of the United States. Cannon's decision comes as Trump is preparing to be formally nominated as the Republican presidential nominee in this year's election, with the Republican National Convention beginning Monday in Milwaukee. That's today. He was convicted in May of falsifying records to conceal a hush money payment to an adult film star ahead of the 2016 election, but is now challenging that verdict and the indictment itself based on the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. And remember, Judge Juan Merchan moved the sentencing date back from July 11th to mid-September. 2 other cases, his federal election interference case in D.C. and a similar state trial in Georgia, have been stalled by legal challenges and will also be impacted by the immunity decision. It is blowing my mind that Trump is getting away with this. It blows my mind that this man has the platform he has after trying to overthrow the U.S. government, after trying to subvert the will of the American people, after pressuring election officials into finding votes, pressuring Mike Pence into choosing a false slate of electors. There's more to the article, but I want to read Trump's statement really quickly. He said, "As we move forward in uniting our nation," please, Donald Trump, "after the horrific events on Saturday, this dismissal of the lawless indictment in Florida should be just the first step, followed quickly by the dismissal of all the witch hunts, the January 6th hoax in Washington, D.C., the Manhattan DA's zombie case, the New York AG scam, fake claims about a woman I never met. A decades-old photo in line with her then husband does not count." So as you can see, now that Donald Trump has gotten the slightest bit of sympathy, he is firing on all cylinders and taking full advantage advantage. He is trying to get all of the other cases dismissed. He is applying pressure in any way he can, and he is fully going to take advantage of this for fundraising purposes and to try to get all of the cases dismissed. He then said, and the Georgia perfect phone call charges. The Democrat Justice Department coordinated all of these political attacks, which are an election interference conspiracy against Joe Biden's political opponent, me. Let us come together to end all weaponization of our justice system and make America great again. Absolutely terrifying statement right there. Terrifying statement. He just went all in on this apocalyptic, inflammatory rhetoric about everything being rigged against him, and then he wonders why people feel emboldened, why people feel disenfranchised and want to commit violent acts. Maybe it's because you've said that every institution is rigged, every single court is rigged, even the judges you appointed were rigged against you because they wouldn't overturn the results of the election. Donald Trump repeatedly undermines every institution and then wonders why people are disillusioned. This, like, Vladimir Putin could not make up a more perfect supervillain for America, someone who just wants to bring the whole country down with him, and Vladimir Putin is egging him on in the background. To continue this article, a spokesperson for Smith did not immediately respond to the request for comment on Cannon's decision to dismiss the Florida charges. In a 93-page ruling, the judge wrote that the issue of a special counsel was a novel one that had to be decided before the prosecution could proceed any further. But what's novel about a special counsel investigating a president? That's the least novel thing ever. Quote, upon careful study of the foundational challenges raised in the motion, the court is convinced that special counsel Smith's prosecution of this action breaches two structural cornerstones of our constitutional scheme: the role of Congress in the appointment of constitutional officers and the role of Congress in authorizing expenditures by law. Cannon concluded in her 93-page order. The legal theory that Smith was illegally appointed and funded has generally been considered far-fetched. Trump's legal team didn't adopt the arguments in court until conservative legal groups pushed it. All of these arguments that seem like far-fetched conspiracies are now being realized in our institutions. The idea that a Supreme Court would give a president immunity and actually run defense for him sounded so far-fetched, but that is the reality we are living in. All of these far-fetched MAGA arguments are being manifested in reality right now, and we cannot get complacent. The former president's lawyers did not make a similar request to dismiss Trump's federal election interference case in D.C., even though AG Merrick Garland appointed Smith to oversee that case in the same way as the Florida case. But the legal argument gained more steam earlier this month after Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas wrote in the presidential immunity case that the special counsel's office needs to be established by Congress and that Smith needed to be confirmed by the Senate. Thomas urged lower courts to explore this issue. The justice wrote that he tacked on his concurring opinion to the immunity ruling to, quote, highlight another way in which this prosecution may violate our constitutional structure. Used very similar language, the exact same language that Aileen Cannon used. Cannon held two hearings on the appointment of the special counsel last month, a few weeks before Thomas issued his opinion. During the hearing, it was not clear how she would rule, but she acknowledged that precedent seemed to support Garland's appointment of Smith and that there would be a high legal bar for overturning it. But of course, Republicans are professionals at this political doublespeak, saying one thing while meaning something else and acting on that other thing. The crux of Trump's argument is that because Garland has repeatedly said Smith is acting independently in overseeing the investigation, the special counsel should be considered a principal officer, a top government official who has no immediate supervisor and whose appointment requires Senate approval. The special counsel team countered that Smith, like other special counsels before him, is not a principal officer. The team said that while federal regulations say Garland does not provide day-to-day supervision of special counsels, the Attorney General ensures they adhere to Justice Department protocols and can review major investigatory steps. In an unusual move, Cannon invited outside groups to participate in the hearings and offer their arguments for and against the appointment of Smith. This is a developing story. I'll keep you guys updated, but if you enjoyed this video, if you appreciate what I do, make sure you leave a like. Please make sure you've hit that subscribe button and you're subscribed to the channel. Some people think they are, but they aren't. Please make sure you leave a comment, and please make sure you have a great day.